Hey guys, welcome back. Alright, so this video is going to be a bit of an impromptu video. I apologize for my dog who's clicking around in the background right now. I've been doing a bunch of ZBrush today, and I kind of need to change gears for a little bit to just reset my brain. And something I've wanted to do for a while is take a look at the Jesse M 3D files for his C-3PO costume and do some little mods to the helmet. That just things that every time I see one printed, I'm just like, everything else looks really good. I reviewed his files like 2 years ago, some printed versions on Chris Lee's animatronic 3PO, and he used the Jesse M files to make that, and they're really, really good. They're really, really good. So this isn't a knock on his work at all, but there are a couple little things that always were there. So I figured I would get in ZBrush right now and open into those files and just take a stab at changing some stuff. And figured you guys might want to come with me on the journey. So I'm putting on this recorder here, and I'm going to switch to ZBrush, and it should be me in the corner talking, but as soon as I close this window, I have no idea whether it's working or not. So let's hope it works, because I'm about to delve. Is that it? Let's dive in. That's what I'm going to say. All right. And here we go. All right. So hopefully I don't start picking my nose or something, because I have no monitor of myself right now. It's super cool. So we want to import some stuff into ZBrush. So I'm going to go to the sub tool here, and I'm going to duplicate this because there's a couple pieces to this. Look at that. The hell? Oh, I see what I did. Already messing up. So I want to go here, and I want to click back on the Polymesh 3D. New file, draw it out. I'm going to go to edit. My dog is barking randomly. That's great. Hey, you recorded something? I'm going to start barking randomly. So I'm going to duplicate this a few times, because when you insert a file into, or import, I should say, into ZBrush, what the hell is this? I see. Look at this. ZBrush import. Weird. Let's go to the desktop where I have crazy stuff everywhere, and it's going to be the C-3PO. That's my C-3PO that I'm working on. I'll talk about that too in a little bit. So I've been slowly working on 3PO files. I started them ages ago, but Jesse kind of beat me to the punch as far as finishing a whole costume. And once he did his, the urgency to do mine kind of went down a bit. Head front, import that. Let's see, go. I don't know if you guys can see these menus or not as I go, or if it just shows ZBrush menu. So, okay. File read successfully. All right, so then we got our head here. Cool. And then we'll switch to a different sub tool here to import the next part, because otherwise it'll just replace the one that we have selected. It'll replace the one we have selected. Back. Go to the back. Hopefully it comes in the correct spot, and it does. Yay! Cool. Okay, so we got the basics here. Let's import the other pieces just to see what we've got. Neck. Say okay. And it kind of came in sort of weird. We don't really need the neck, but just look at it just in case. Import neck bolt. Okay. And this one, I'm going to duplicate some more of these out. So we've got a neck bolt. We've got file. Oh, what am I doing? Import. Let's see. Neck, back, head back detail. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Solo that. Looks pretty similar to one of mine. I don't know if he used my files or not for this. I don't know. I'll import one of mine in a little bit, and we'll compare. See what they look like. No big deal if he did. I don't mind either way. So what else do we need? Eyes. Let's import that stuff. Head back. Head antenna. Okay. Okay. I see it hanging out. This looks don't know if it is the same. This little taper looks a little different. This looks a lot like one of my early antennas that I did on Shapeways ages ago. This little plug down here isn't on the real ones at all. So a while back, some maker, just back in like 2010 probably, one of the makers had made the antenna with this little plug, and it would like plug into the helmet. And I based my first 3D files off of that one, and this looks like that. However, I don't know if he remodeled it or if this is one of my files that was on the internet somewhere. This little taper here does not look like one that I wouldn't have done that, I don't think. So maybe Jesse made these from scratch based on some photos or something. I don't know. So, all right, import. What's next? Head antenna, eyes. Cool. Let's see. Oh, cool. Uh-oh. Don't want to do that. I hit the wrong button. And there's the eyes. Looking pretty good. Import. What else do we have? Eye tubes. Okay. Little tube there. Cool. And import eye lens. Okay. Okay. It's the back piece. So, does it have a back to the eye? Did I miss it? Head antenna, eyes, eye tube, eye lens. So maybe there's no back to his eyes. That's okay. Not a big deal. It's not really why I'm here. I figured I'd just merge everything so I could look at it. So we'll turn off solo mode. And let's combine some pieces here just so we can look at this a little more effectively. I'll take this guy. I'm going to center it in the world. And we will move it back here. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to solo this. Move it to the top of the stack. It's by itself. I'm going to insert a cylinder. There's a little cylinder down there just for reference. And on that cylinder, I'm going to import one of my pieces. And we're going to compare to see if it's the same as mine or if it is totally remodeled. So here's mine. A little bit different things on there. This kind of looks like one of my Shapeways versions, this old one, but maybe it's not. I don't know. So this is my most current version of this thing. Size is pretty close. Pretty close. My new this one I have here, size-wise, is very accurate to scale. Like really accurate. I can actually show you a demo to show you how accurate it is. It's really close. I'm looking now. I actually have a good reference right next to me. I might have to walk the dog here in a second. So anyway, this is mine. Here's Jesse's. Really close. His is good. His is good. Nobody's gonna be able to tell the difference unless you're like a super nerd like me. Again, I think my old one actually had this weird rounded thing inside, so I don't know if it's based on one of my older files or not. See how it slants in? I don't know. I have to go look. But this is my newest file of this piece, which is very accurate. But that's not the point. It's not why we're here. Let's stop looking at this crap. Turn all the files back on. And we will take the, this is fine. We'll take the head back detail. And we will just sort of place it here for fun times. And let's see, it looks pretty good. Sits pretty nice. Now, it's pretty good. Now, oh, I twisted the wrong one. Now, I'm putting it like this. There's this weird thing on, it's on screen use helmets from Empire Strikes Back onward, where this little item is slightly offset to one side, so you get this little piece that's kind of at an angle. However, I would bet my whole freaking Star Wars collection that the original was done like this. And there are shots in A New Hope where you can see this is vertical. And the New Hope C-3PO helmets are kind of like my guide. When I look at the other ones, even if they're screen used, Empire, Jedi, whatever, I know that they're all kind of came from the New Hope helmet. And the New Hope helmets had some, you know, these little differences, and I treat those as, you know, the way. And especially when there's these detail elements on other places on the suit, like this same piece is on the belly, and then there's another element on the throat, which is a smaller piece, but it's got the same kind of like design style with the three little prongs coming off and looks like a little valve part. And all of those pieces are, depending on the film, either, you know, facing this way or turned the other way, and they are, you know, symmetrical. Let's say they're not like off kilter. And in some of the shots in New Hope, this is symmetrical like this. And I don't think anybody that's designing anything in the right mind that has multiple elements that are similar is going to have one that's messed up on purpose. Now, my guess is that when they were shooting, they're like, oh, we better, you know, mold one of these helmets, and they sent somebody off to the, you know, the prop department to go replicate the C-3PO helmet, and they just grabbed one, molded it, and then did the castings. And that molded one, that piece got cockeyed, because on the original helmets from New Hope, that piece is a separate item and it's movable. And on the later helmets, it is cast into the part. So for me, I always keep it like this. I think that's what the artist intended. I think Liz Moore would be not thrilled to see that they messed it up, and I think she would throw a fit personally. So throw this neck in here just for reference. You know what? Center this, send it home, and the neck, it just kind of fits. The neck hole is kind of interesting shape. Now that I'm looking at this from the bottom, and we got the little holes on the side here. Put it on transparent so we can just see what's going on. Make sure everything lines up well enough, and they're sort of angled, so I'm gonna just guess that this is gonna go around here. It's close enough. We don't really need that there. Visual aid, I guess. Same with this. Center this. Now this is another piece that is slightly asymmetrical on the real helmets. It just kind of goes off to the, it's kind of like here. The whole top little hump here is actually crooked on the real helmet compared to how it looks here. So one of the little asymmetries that is special on C-3PO. But I don't mind the symmetry. I think it's not bad. Nothing wrong with having a symmetrical droid. But again, if you're going for the accuracy, it's one of those things that might matter. And then we've got our neck piece here. We will put this guy up. Feel like this little tapered piece here, man, the angle of that might be a little much. Guess it tapers in a little bit. I actually have a couple pieces of helmets I'm working on next to me, a couple that are very closely related to screen used, and a my 3D, the back of my 3D printed helmet that I'm working on to use for reference. So to mirror this guy, we're gonna go geometry, mirror and weld, and now we got two of those. And to do the eye, we got to do something a little different. I'm going to have to try this backwards here. Let's see if it works. You're going to go to, deformation and mirror. Boom. You know, put it on the other side. ZBrush only does mirror and weld from left to right on screen. So we got to go with that. Boink. I got 2 eyes. I don't think I need this piece here. So let's delete the piece. And we can merge that in later if we want it. There's a little itty bitty piece there. What is that? Is that a little thing? Oh, it's a little tiny star from sometime merging for polymesh. That's this one. Little itty bitty star. Don't need that. I don't think. Okay. All right. So now we have basically a complete head. I'm going to save this in case I crash ZBrush. That's GT modded. Cool. All right, so now time to party on this thing. So my main complaints are pretty subtle, and it's this ridge in the nose is the main thing that I just don't like at all. It's awful. Real C-3PO helmet does not have the ridge in the nose. Here, let me switch back to view me so we can look at one. Good casting here. Me full screen. All right, so this casting is 2 generations away from a real C-3PO helmet. And you can see the ridge there's no ridge on the nose. It's smooth. It's rounded. If you get the light on it just right, you'll get the impression of a ridge. However, there's no ridge there. You can see if I angle it, you can really tell that there's just sort of rounded out. So I'm going to try to replicate that. Another thing is these little the ridges next to the eyes here on the Jesse M files are like an angle slightly wrong, and that bothers me. So we're gonna fix those things first. And I noticed something. Let me switch back. Me full screen in the corner. All right, I'll minimize this. All right, so another thing too is that this line right here is completely straight on his. On the real helmets, right around here, this starts to just drift forward a little bit. Not a lot, it's real subtle, but it's a little bit. So I'm gonna solo this. I'm gonna do that first. And I feel like the best way to handle that, you know what? I'm just gonna turn on the face and I'm gonna turn up all those greebles. Let's see here. Have this thing on. Make sure the symmetry is on since this helmet is symmetrical. So we've got our see these 2 little dots. If you hit X, then you can basically modify one side or the other. My brush is extremely small, so these things came in at some gigantic size. Oh God, let's see here. I always forget how to do this. Draw. Oh no, sorry. Tool. No. Where is it? Stroke. There's a way to adjust this. I never have to do it very often, so I always forget where the heck it is. Preferences. Draw. There we go. Dynamic brush size. There we go. Then that's a little better. Preferences. Draw. Dynamic brush. This changes the scale so that your maximum scale is nice and large, so you can work with it. But you can see if I move this on one side, it just affects that size, but it just affects that side. But if I turn on X, it's symmetry, so it'll affect both sides equally. So we are going to keep that on for this file since Jesse did this symmetrically. But we want to do a deformer here, I think, and get this little section down here. I don't want to morph too much of this, so I'm going to turn up the deformer a bit. Turn up this way a little bit. See if this works. See if there's too many. Let's see. Let's see how it, yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn this down just a tad. Sometimes what happens is it will cheat forward the section that you don't want to necessarily move, because technically speaking, could probably do this one right here. It should be enough detail for what I want to do. So grab those and slide it forward just a tad. It's not nearly that much. It's like this much. It's real subtle. This is one of these things that's subtle enough that I could not figure out for the life of me for a long time whether it was actually bending forward or not. And I finally got to see one in person up close. I could finally see it. It's really, really subtle. So it's kind of like that. It's a little bend toward the bottom. That might even be too much. It's really subtle. Let's go back a little bit. We'll say it's there. That's fine. That's close enough. We're not going crazy. Cool. Now, we're back to this move brush. Another thing is that this little notch right here is not very accurate. So it's kind of a combination of this. Let me see. I'll turn on symmetry again. Make sure symmetry's on. Okay. It's kind of a combination of this part. It's not sticking down as much, and this part can be down a little bit more. So we can go to brush, move, and if you hit D, that is depth. Let me see where they mark that out at. So see up here, you can see it says the brush is move infinite, which means that what I move here is going to translate through all the way to the other side, whether or not I have on the symmetry. So I'm going to very subtly pull this stuff down just a hair. I'm going to pull this up just a hair. This isn't going to be super accurate, but just a little itty bitty bit to make it kind of better. Now I just noticed too up close, yeah, see these little triangles? This works better if everything is in quads, like four-sided polygons and not these little triangles. Now, it's going to really show up more once I hit, go to smooth things, like a couple areas around his chin. I bet we'll see it. Like if I turn off the grid and I smooth it, see how it gets those little pimples, those little lumps right there? That's because of triangles as opposed to quad polys. So sometimes this happens if you're exporting from one program to another. The way it exports OBJ files or sometimes even STL files, it makes a bunch of triangles instead of a bunch of quads. It's a bunch of 3D nerdy stuff. But we could probably remesh this thing. Z remesher. Let me look here. I'm gonna try to remesh it before I do anything, because I think if I start to do some of the mods, like the lines here are really, really sharp. They're overly sharp. So these edges are super crisp, and they need to be rounded a little bit. But if it's all triangles and I go to do that, it's probably going to freak out. So the way we fix that, we come down to geometry, then we go to Z remesher, and we're going to turn this on. Sometimes this might take a couple tries. So we're at 97,000 active points right now. And I guess we'll keep it. I'm going to double it, but it'll make it quads. So let's try it. See what happens. The geometry actually might be a little bit too dense when I do this. However, if I can get it to translate over to quads, then I might be able to turn the geometry down and kind of keep the shape. We will see. I actually wonder if I should, yeah, see that now? I got nice square little quad geometry. I'm probably actually going to back this out, but so if I smooth this, see I don't get all those little bumps like I got before. It's a lot nicer. That's pretty. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the old geometry here, and I'm going to change something that I noticed when this came in. This whole design here is not accurate to the real helmet. This little, the way the lip is. So the way it's set in right here doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you wear one of these helmets, this little extra bit of material really is going to catch the ears. On the real helmet, this plane just continues back. There's no inset right here. The inset is only in this section up here. So this plane just continues, and then this plane continues back. And this one actually ends, it kind of tapers. So if you look at it from the side, it sort of tapers from about the corner of the tab up to the top like this. So it's kind of set back. On the New Hope helmets, this was just a smooth transition. It didn't have a tab at all, but they added it on Empire Strikes Back, and then it stayed on the other helmets, which I think it's a good improvement personally. But if you ever see a face from a C-3PO, that is how you can tell if it's from a New Hope, is that there's no tab here. This sort of just tapers. I do like this little tab guy here to hold the face on when you put it on. That's kind of what they did with the Zorg helmets. So anyway, what I wanted to do is, you can see our poly group here is like this purple pinkish color. I want to potentially split these pieces up so that I can kind of control the thickness of the helmet a little bit, and I can alter the tabs that I was just talking about. Because right now, the interior of the helmet from this wall and the cheek to here is actually really thick, which is, if you're wearing it, that's not going to be very fun. So I want to thin that out a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to poly groups, and we're going to go group by normals. And what this does is it tries to find the sharp edges, and it'll change the poly groups based on a sharp edge. This doesn't always work depending on the model, and you can see on the edge of the tab it didn't really do anything. So we have these edges here, and I'll show you why I'm doing this. You'll see in a second, because I'm gonna just delete the interior of the helmet and then create a new interior once I'm done. So let's taking this in for a moment. So one thing with the poly groups you can do is you can select by poly group, which means I can select just the outer part of the helmet. I can just delete the whole inside, which is very, very handy. However, I might keep the upper tab. I can invert that selection so you can see there's the inside of the helmet. I might keep this part of this upper tab here just to have something to work with, and then delete the interior. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So I'll keep this, and what I'm going to do is hide the stuff I want to keep, like that. I'll turn it inside out. So now I've got all these pieces. I'm probably going to go and manually take out the edge of these tabs here, but this gives us this stuff for now. And what I can do is split hidden. Actually, I can delete hidden. I don't think I need it at the moment. Yeah, I'm going to delete it. See what happens. So you go to geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, and now all that stuff is gone. It's gone. Now notice you can't see the inside of the geometry. It's completely transparent, which can be useful sometimes. Sometimes it's annoying. You just go down to display properties, hit double, and now you can see the inside. However, just because you can see the inside, there's no thickness to this. It's just one piece of geometry, so we got to remember that. Now, debating what I think is going to be the easiest way to handle this transition. I need to make multiple ways to do it. But anyway, let's go into the face first. We'll come back to this. One of the things I hate is this nose. It's a sharp nose. I do not like. Make sure my stuff is on here, and just try to smooth this out. I got a lot of polygons here. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Now I forgot I backed out. There we go. Go back to this one. I'm going to remesh this thing so we have square polygons, because I did it before, but then I backed out. So we go back to geometry, Z remesher, And we go to, let's see, let's double it. Adaptive size. I usually leave these alone for the most part. I'm going to keep groups. That way we can select these edges, hopefully. And the thing is, like, when you can run these, and then if it doesn't look right, you just hit undo and then adjust some things and run it again. So it's not a big deal if it's not perfect the first time you do Z remesher or Dynamesh or one of these. So the poly count is very high, which is okay. You can see it really does a good job of following the contours. The Z remesher does, which is nice. So let's see. So that is pretty good. I could probably go less than that. If I go, I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm gonna hit half and then see what happens. If it looks bad, we can go back. And what happens is if you have a really high count, poly count, geometry-wise, the mesh is harder to do broad adjustments to. So if you have something big, smooth surface and you want to make it smooth and shiny, it's a little easier if the geometry is a little bit lower, if there's less to deal with. So this might be a little too low. So you see it's getting a little bit of facets kind of in the eye here. Overall, the rest of it's not that bad, but this little bit bothers me, so I'm going to go back just to keep it sharp. So that's okay. That's okay. Let's see here. So where do we go next? Especially on these little edges here. And technically speaking, I could always go in and adjust, these things where these loops come around. If I don't need these extra ones, I could go in here and then go to the Z modeler brush and add these. It's already on insert, and you can remove some of these extra pieces. Make sure they're not hitting anything crazy. Yeah, see how they go around? They are wrapped all around here. So you got to look and be careful. Just make sure that they don't go places you don't want them to go. And I'm taking this in. So what I may do is I want to raise this piece out till it matches the edge of this. So I'm just trying to assess what the best way to handle that is going to be right now. Sometimes it takes a second, sometimes it takes a few tries. Again, I'm going to look here and see if I remove those, am I screwing up any major geometry? Not really. I'm removing some stuff here. That doesn't matter on the tab so much. Now, is this necessary? Not really. Do I like to do it? Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like OCD, popping pimples or something, and trying to get rid of excess. And sometimes having less geometry like this makes it a little easier to deal with. So, like I said, so that little thing here that I just did, this has perspective turned on, but if you turn perspective off, it gives you like an orthographic view. Let's see here. I want to take this piece and I want to warp it, I think. There goes the dog. I'm going to have to go get him really quick. Can I pause this thing? Pause? Is it or not? Record. Alright, see recording. Alright, I'm back. Walk the dog. Let's hope he stays good for a while. So, anyway, here we are. Back looking at this thing. Now, this is how it is for me doing ZBrush. Sometimes I just have to figure stuff out. I have to think about it for a little bit to make sure that you're making the right choice. Now, the way I want to do this, I think I need to get rid of this little lip around the bottom edge here, just to at least make it a different poly group for the time being. Same on the mouth. Now to select things like this, this is the selection tool. I'm actually going to change it to lasso, which is B, S, then L. You just say skip this note. And that way you can make like a little, you can, create the shape that you want. Save you some hassle. So this is a time where turning on that double geometry display properties where you see the back of the geometry, the double, can be really handy. So like the inside of this mouth. So let's just get rid of what we don't need. So just little edges here, a little bit funky, but probably fine. Now this little edge, it kind of flips over. Check it, make sure there's not too many stragglers here. That's like a little bit of a weird one around this edge. Oops. I'll change that to a different polygroup color. I'm going to zoom in really quick and check this out again, just to be sure, not lose my mind. All right. Cool. All right. Almost there. What color is this on the bottom? Did we switch this enough? Now the reason I'm doing this is just because I can do a dynamic subdivision and there we go. That's good enough. Make it a different color for sure. There we go. And the dynamic subdivision will add thickness to this whole thing as much as I want. I can change it. I can just dial it back and forth. So if it's looking too thin or too thick, I can just change it on the fly, and it's very, very handy. So I'm going to basically ditch all the interior stuff so that I can do that. So that little lip is not needed. So I'll go back to geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. You can take all of these little menus, if it's something you use regularly, and make your own menu out of it. Just keep it super handy, but I always forget to do it. It's not quite pain in the ass enough for me to worry about it yet. So yeah, I want to get rid of this edge on this tab here. These tabs they're pretty thick, and I think as far like, and they're inset. So that's another part on the real helmet. This piece here, I guess it flows pretty well right there, but let me look at this from this angle. Oh yeah, it looked inset because I removed those polygons, but it's not. This part is pretty close to being correct. I do want to fix this though. I don't like that. So we can go mask. Oops. You change the polygroup color by hitting Control W or Command W if you're on a Mac. Now what I meant to do. So I wanted to hit Control A, which makes a mask there. And did I mask everything? Pretty much. I want to mask this green part too for now. So oops. I should hide. See what I'm doing. If you have it on the move tool and you control click, it'll mask the stuff that you haven't clicked. So, oops. Control A. Then we're going to unhide this part. If I did it correctly, we should have this thing centered. So, to reset this gizmo, I'm going to turn off the symmetry and hit Alt. You see when you hit Alt, it lifts that little lock. And you're going to hit boop, and this will put it in the very middle of the unmasked portion. And then you can hit this button here and it'll reset the geometry. So it's straight up and down. It'll reset the gizmo here. Now it's gonna be a little weird because it's gonna rotate it down, but oh god, there he goes. We need a deformer on this piece. I don't think so. So I could go like this. There's a couple ways to do this. I'm going to pull this back a little deeper, like this. Now the thing is, it's going to be pulling these little green guys here, but that's okay. And this top piece here, it's all right. It's all right. I'll get back to that. Pull that a little further out. I'll look at my real helmet. Yeah. So this whole tab comes out almost as far as the tab down at the bottom, at the top. Not quite that far, but it's pretty close. And then I'm going to angle it in so you can move this gizmo. And I'm moving this around by holding Alt, and you click this, and every time I hit Alt, it undoes the lock. It lets me move it. And because the bottom doesn't matter as much, I'm going to do this. Oop. This is not perfect, but it's going to be close enough to give me a good start here. There we go. Whoop. Let's look at this again. That's close enough right now. Whoop. This is a little bit excess, but we can trim that in a bit. Now, I want to bring this plane level with this plane here. Now, there's a couple ways I can do it. I can hit the plane tool, planer, and what I can do is if I push down here and I go in, it's going to level it this way. But if I start here and I go out, it'll bring this part up to match the edge. So I'm going to do that. I have to be real careful because there's a little subtle curve here. It's going to get weird on me, and I really don't want to affect this part of the helmet too much. So sometimes you got to work in like little small groups here, kind of get that worked out. You can see that little booger I made on the edge. So oh, come on. Boop. 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 There we go. Now that is more correct. And I didn't do it on the other side because I forgot to turn symmetry back on. But a way that we can get the symmetry back is I can go mirror and weld. Boop. Now it's on both sides. So if I hit mirror and weld, well, let's look at it from the back. Basically copies and pastes this side to that side. Always left to right for mirror and weld. Just the way ZBrush is. I wish they'd give a little option. I don't have the newest version of ZBrush installed, but should be pretty close. So for this section, I'm in the same boat. I'm actually going to polish this really quick. What I clicked on is B, H for H polish. You can see that selected, and then P, and that gives me that. This just is a real subtle way to smooth, kind of go back and forth over an area, hitting alternating with the Alt key, left back and forth to push up and down slightly, and it'll smooth that out so you get like a pretty nice surface. I want this to be out a little more. Yeah, this angle here is a little drastic. Let's see So there's a couple ways you can do this. Now I've modded this section, and you can see it's kind of like blended out, pretty smooth, and it looks weird when you see it with the polygroups exposed, because that green used to be that return face on the back of the helmet. Now it's no longer. It's now something different. So I'm going to take this. Getting more messages constantly. Take this. Why did it just do the half of it that I didn't want it to do? That's cool. Invert. Let's look at this. So what we can do, make sure my symmetry is on, which it wasn't before again. So mirror and weld it again. Now it should be symmetrical. Okay. I'm going to, from this part down, make a little marker here. Oh God, it's dog again. From this part down is going to be different than this part. And I'll take that one off as well. And I can manually fix the rest. I'm gonna hide this. Now it's gonna be a new color. Let's make it green or something. There we go. And we'll take this piece. Oops, it's getting tricky on me. Invert it. Don't want to lose this whole thing yet. I'm gonna connect those. And I just do. Hide that stuff and hide this edge. It'll let me. Come on, there it goes. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. So now this is a different color. Now it's a bit of a goofy thing, but I want to smooth this together. But I want to keep the groove here. This might be a tiny bit deep. Looks good at the distance-wise. It looked kind of good at the top, but it needs to be smoother transition from this into this. Man, I'm gonna have to take the dog out again, I'm afraid. So I'm gonna lock this off. Close that. Oh yeah. Sorry guys. I'm gonna lock this down with a mask. Then I'm going to smooth this piece here. It's gonna fight me a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have removed so much geometry, but it's okay. I'll hit the move tool and see if it, yeah, I should have not done too much geometry because now this is fighting me. Let's see here. Yeah, see if I move it, it doesn't move this time. I have to unmask it. Oh my God. Dog does this. He's very old. I apologize again. Why is the same color? Oh my God! Stop it, ZBrush. All right, I'm just gonna swap this up so I know it's not the same. Hopefully. And there we go. So now, let's see if this works. I'm gonna try this one more time. This mask, all that. This is unmasked now. Now, if I did this right, it'll let me move it a little bit. Kind of terrible. Oh. I can soften this mask. If you hit Control and tap on the mask, it'll soften it a little bit. Get that edge a little bit softer. I'm gonna have to manually do this piece here because it's biting me. What a pain in the butt. Now another way I could have done this, maybe would have been easier, is select some of the face, like just remove this whole damn thing, and then select a piece of the face, extract out another plane. I wouldn't have this crap going on. And back this up a little bit where I got it goofy. I guess I could just do this too. I could go back to that planer tool and carefully bring this up to match. And it's locked here. Now, why is this one fighting me? There's a little polygon right here that's like, we're not gonna go. I don't want to, whatever you want me to do, I don't want to do it. Is it masked? It's so weird. What is it doing? Alright. Alright. Weird, weird, weird. Now, if the geometry was a little bit lower, I could pretty easily go into the Z modeler tool and just touch this up real easy. I might have to end up doing that just to keep this thing smooth, because it's fighting me a little bit. And you can see if I smooth it and I bump this, it's gonna pull that geometry over. I don't want that. Why is it doing this? That is so goofy. Don't want that. It is the things I deal with sometimes. Like I'll be cruising along and all of a sudden there's like a weird little hang up. What can we do here? I can go to the clip tool. Oh my god, there goes the dog. And get more stuff. Oh, don't want to do that. Nope. I already messed it up. I felt it. So when you go to here, you hit Alt and it'll zing back the other piece and make it even. I gotta smooth that out. Let's see here. What I could do is I can add more polygons back to this part by remeshing this thing. Let me see this really quick. I'm gonna try to pull this out here too. Ooh, don't want this. So select tool again. Radical. Okay. Good job. Modify delete hidden. And this one might be a good place for the Z modeler as well. Now the reason I'm working with this tool really small is because if I make it too big and I grab any of this, it's going to pull that along, and I don't want to do that. So get these things close. It's okay if they're not perfect. Got a little hole in the geometry there. See something weird's going on. Another point where working with lower geometry, lower resolution can be helpful. So see that little rando thing going on? I don't know what that's about. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll get this close and I'll go back and re-clip that back. Anyway, it gives us a start here. It's close-ish. I might have to go in and manually just sculpt that back into shape to get the shape that I'm after. Let's do a Z remesher. And we'll do same. Keep groups. Try it. Hopefully this will give me a little extra geometry and I can go in here and smooth out this little boogery stuff going on. There we go. together. Let's see. So now I got a bunch of geometry there. Oops. So back to this polish tool, BHP, which is H polish. Turn off this thing so you can kind of look at it here. Now, a little bit pain in the ass, but it's okay. A little funkiness going on here. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Yeah, this little edge is going to be kind of weird. See that? What is that booger? I don't know what the hell that thing is. Like right here, it's like the geometry does not react. Cleared the mask. I don't know what it is. It's this little magic piece of geometry that just, even though I've remeshed it, does not want to cooperate with me. It's making me upset. Very weird. So weird. That's so weird. All right, so let's see. Okay, I'm gonna just hit mask something. BM L. Mask last out. Okay. B and E. Move elastic. Let's see if it lets me do this. I can move it, the elastic tool by itself. So weird. That's just so weird. But when I smooth it, it just doesn't want to smooth down. It's just fighting me. Anyway, not the biggest of deals, however, slightly annoying. So we've got this guy. For whatever reason is weird. I'm gonna just remesh it again and see what happens. Sometimes you get stuff closer, and as you remesh it, it kind of corrects little boogery things. So we'll go with that. And then we'll get back into just clearing that edge. See that? There's now, it's a little off, but there's, it cleared out the weird, those gaps in the geometry. This little thing still. Oh yeah, see we got some interesting things here with the way the geometry is. Maybe it's because the two. I wonder if it's trying to crease the groups. Let me see something. Crease. Uncrease all. Nothing. Very, very weird. This lump is very strange to me. Bet you're glad you're watching me do this right now. Alright. So anyway, that's close enough right now. I'll come back in and tweak that a little bit. And then at the very bottom, got this little weirdness going on. So we're going to do the same. We're going to go to BPL, which is the planer tool. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to bring this out to the edge. It's basically taking that angle and just moving it out as much as possible. Sometimes you got to go manually pull some polygons a little closer so that it'll work. Hopefully I'm doing it on both sides. Am I? Did I mess it up? No, it looks like symmetry is on. There we go. We're gonna come in here and tweak it, tweak it, and tweak it. Tweak it, and tweak it. Cool. A little better. And I'm going to trim this excess stuff off. That's all going to come off. And then it'll be good, I hope. So anyway, that gives, this is a closer approximation of what the real helmets look like. This plane just continues all the way into the helmet, and then it just continues up, and it makes this tab. And like I said, on the New Hope versions, this is just rounded down like this. There's no tab here. This continues all the way back, and this just sort of rounds off, and that just sort of tucks into the helmet. This is a better design. So yeah, so that's what we got now. Let's look at, I'll show you what the dynamic subdivision looks like. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to hit D, say yes. Now, it upped the poly count kind of a lot. And I am going to actually turn the smooth subdivisions down to 0. We don't need it. And I'm going to turn on the display properties. I'm going to turn off double so now we can see through it. Now what we're going to do is go back in geometry, dynamic subdivision, and we're going to turn on the thickness. Oop. And you can control how thick it goes. Now I don't know what scale this came in at, because like the very thickest, really thick, looks kind of thin here. This is actually fine for print. This is actually a pretty, for me, I like to print stuff as thin as possible, and then if I need to reinforce it with some fiberglass or something, I can, but I like to print thin like this. It gives me a lot of room, print fast, less material in general. So you can see now I've got a little bit of inside thickness. Now you can offset that like this. You want to do negative 100, otherwise it adds the thickness to the outside, and so you can see it gets puffy and weird, but you want to do negative 100. So now the outside looks the same, but now the inside picked up the thickness here. Now this is probably like 1.5 millimeters. Again, this thickness is up to 1, and there's something with the scale of the way these came in. So they might be scaled to, I don't know if they're scaled to millimeters or inches. Sometimes when you bring stuff into ZBrush, it freaks out, and it'll export the correct scale. It'll come into your 3D files, processes the correct scale, but the actual units are way out of whack in the ZBrush for whatever reason. So I'm assuming that it's probably millimeters, and that's why it's freaking out. I could be wrong. But this dynamic subdivision, you can change the thickness and keep working on it. And you can also work at a lower resolution and control the smoothness factors, which is nice. So you can have a lot less polygons and then turn the smoothness back up, which is good for doing hard surface modeling. Now, they didn't start with it on for this. I'm not going to use it here, but we'll turn this off for now just to make it a little quicker. But what's also kind of good about this is as I work on this face and then I turn the dynamic subdivision on, it makes the back of the helmet, it alters the back as well. So if I just had thick geometry that was like 1 millimeter thick, and then I did these mods to the outside of the face, the inside of the face, I would have to mod it as well to accommodate, if that makes sense. So anyway, I want to smooth out this line because I hate it. So I'm going to do this real subtle. Look at it a little bit. Make sure it fades off nicely. Whoop. Yay. Now, there's a little line here just from mirroring and welding. Get rid of that. Oh, it's already so much better. Now these lines here, like I said, they're coming out almost like the middle of the eye. Now, let me switch up modes here so you can look at myself. Me full screen. So on this one, you can see where they angle down, the angle doesn't come to the center. It's almost like Jesse's files are pointing from this point to the center point of the eye, so the angle is like not drastic enough. So I'm gonna try to change that here, and hopefully I don't goof it all up. So let's get back to it here. Yeah, see how like this line, it almost hits right in the dead center of the eye. Now this is one of those things where if the geometry was lower resolution, this would be a lot easier to do. There's a couple ways here. I can mask all this stuff just so I don't mess it up, hopefully. I'm actually going to mask a lot so that if I goof up, I don't screw up too much of this helmet. I want to mask all of the eye circle. Definitely don't want to mess up any of that. I don't want to mess up any of this. Minus that. And get that. Is that enough? All right, here we go. Gonna start moving this thing. I'm gonna have to go down the length of this piece here, I think, and adjust it. So if this isn't perfect, it's okay. I'm just gonna make it better. So push that up a little bit. Look at my helmet here in front of me. And this part on the real helmet is not quite symmetrical, but it's close. But it's one of those things that I always noticed was never quite the same on both sides. Let's try that again. Move this up. And like I said, because I moved this means I got to go down this whole line here, move it. And if I had lower geometry, lower resolution, it wouldn't be so finicky with these little, these little boogers and bumps. I got to go back and really get smooth all this out here. Let me back this up here. I think that angle's better, but now I got to go sharpen all this detail. So I'm going to go BPI, which is for pinch. And I'm going to just run this down here a little bit. Probably don't even need it that wide. Pinch and smooth, and it's definitely a little overly sharp here, which is okay. We'll round it back out when it's done. All right. I'm gonna do a Damien standard brush, which pushes this in, and then I'm gonna smooth it a little bit. And if you turn on L, of course the scale is crazy, so it doesn't even show up. But L is the lazy mouse, and it'll give you straighter lines. I can go in there and adjust it, but I don't need it that bad. It'll be fine. And pull this up a little bit around the eye here. Doesn't need a lot, but just a little bit of sharpness. Tiniest little bit. It's like sharpen it and then soften it, so you can kind of readjust that implied line here. It's pretty soft on the real helmet, but there's a little bit of an indication of where that line would be. Alright, so I'm using the pinch tool. As you can see, if you're curious of the tools, if you look up here in the corner, if you're not familiar with ZBrush, you can see what tool I'm using. And then you'll see if I hold shift, it goes to the smooth brush. So a lot of times if you see me, doing a pinch like this, and then it comes back, and I'll smooth it a little bit just to kind of level out some of the polygons. Alright, that feels better. Still a little soft right here, but that's okay. I'll come back and look at that in a minute. But that angle's better. It's not pointing down to it's almost like he made a tangent right to the very corner of the eye before. So cheat that. And remember, I'm just doing these as like relatively quick mods. I'm taking probably longer than I should on this, but another thing too is these lines are overly sharp, just a bit, and the brow line is a little overly sharp, so I'm going to soften this just a hair, not a lot, just a little bit. And same with the bridge of the nose. I'm sitting here referencing my actual helmet, which is very, 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 very accurate, and I'm trying to mimic that. It's pretty good. And the pinch is on. I'm going to situate this just a hair. Okay, now we go to just a standard brush and just give a little bit of a bump here to help the curve out. So a little tiny, it's like slightly sunken looking right here. I'm gonna add a little bit of meat back. You'll see it'll make a big old bump, and then I smooth it down. And sometimes it's just like an easier way to kind of get it back to where it needs to be. It's looking like I got a little bit of the ridge still there. It's pretty rounded out now, so I'm feeling better about that. All right. Let's see. And then this sharp line on the chin is a little weird too. Like this line, you see in the light, get like these harsh kind of lines. Now I'm using the smooth tool to do this. If you look up here, as I hit shift, it switches to smooth. There is a brush called Smooth Stronger, which does the same thing, but it just does it a little bit faster, which I should probably enable, but it's okay right now. Okay. I got these, see a little itty bitty bump right here? There's probably something weird with the geometry. Yeah, see that? There's like a little pinch in the geometry right there where some edges come together. So, probably remesh this sucker again in a minute. Oh my god, already with that nose is looking so much better to me. Okay, that's cool. So it's not perfect. You see stuff is loose, but those overall fixes I think are already making a big difference. Now, one thing I'm going to have to do is retrim the back of the helmet to mate with the front properly. Which is okay. So, you know, we can turn on different colors. Sometimes swapping up the colors is good. You can kind of get a fresh look. Like right now, I see this line in the top here that I didn't notice before. It's actually some little geometry bumplies. Excuse me. People shooting fireworks off outside. It's great. Yeah, I want to get rid of this tab here, this edge. Let's see, what is the best way? So come out to this edge. And I guess I'll just start hiding everything around it. And this little chunk is kind of weird here. I'll have to fix that. Nope. Let's go around and just double check this. Let's see here. Get rid of this. Let's see. Probably gonna have to come back and bring back a little bit of the edge here and some spots if I wanted to be super clean, but think what I'm going to do is set a color on that so it's different. And I can look at it. And it's probably good. There's this little weirdness in this corner right here. Turn off perspective so I can see it dead on. I'm going to go, let's see. Okay. Oop. Got a little bit of boogers here. This is probably nitpicky because if I remesh it, it's going to fix a lot of this stuff. Let's see, got a little bit of boogers here. And hopefully I didn't just like draw a bunch of holes in the face. Let's look. Yeah, see I put a hole here. So, hide that. Okay, let's see. Hide all the stuff we don't want to see, which I think is this stuff. Get that edge. There we go. And make this all unified again. I think that's probably good. And I'm going to delete this piece. Got a couple little boogers there. All right. Almost good enough. That looks fine. Now I'm going to go back in here, geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. It's funny because if I started this from scratch, I don't know how I would approach this. I would probably, I'm going to soften this little edge right here. I would probably, if I was doing a scratch-made helmet, I would do a much lower resolution, which is probably what he did. I'm not sure what program he modeled this in. Maybe Blender or Cinema. I don't know what program he made the helmet in. But typically in a lot of poly modeling 3D programs, you work at a pretty low resolution and then use like a modifier. Like if it's in Maya, there's like a smoothing option, and in 3D Studio Max, it's called Turbo Smooth, and you can work at a low resolution with like these big chunky polygons. And when you turn on Turbo Smooth, it'll tessellate the geometry and basically turn up the geometry and interpolate the curve that would be made. So if you have like, I don't know, a bunch of polygons like angled, let's say you have like 5 of them that are like real, chunky, it'll take the, average out the amount of curve in there and make a really nice smooth curve with a lot more geometry. But you can turn that on and off. And the dynamic subdivision is something that I use pretty regularly for hard surface modeling. It works the same way. I would probably work at this, I don't know, like way less geometry, way less. Right now it's you can see at the top corner here, it's at 227,000 points, which is a lot. And I would typically work a lot lower if I was doing a hard surface thing and then turn it up. Now for the C-3PO helmet that I'm working on, my own, I'm kind of working like this. I'm just sculpting like I'm sculpting in clay or something. I'm not turning down the geometry and fixing stuff because I'm trying to retain a lot of the C-3PO goodness that's already there. Now, I'm going to switch over and show you a little bit of what I'm doing here, and we'll come back to this in a second. So, I've got this really accurate face, and I've got a really accurate back. This one's kind of warped because it's been sitting out in between some stuff, but it's some flexible urethane stuff. And then I've got my 3D printed back. Now, this is started from the Dawn Post files that were online from the Happy one they've been kicking around for a few years. And I started doing videos on my C-3PO build a while back. Now, my goal is to make the parts as accurate as possible, and I've got really, really good reference, but I think I mentioned earlier, once Jesse started doing his files, it kind of became like, not as important. So right now, what I'm trying to do is mate this 3D printed part to the real face, and it's super close right now. So once I get this dialed in, it's probably the next iteration will be the final version. Then I'll know that my face for that file is now the correct scale and everything, and then I can do all the final tweaks on it, and I'll have a very accurate 3D printable C-3PO. For myself, what I'm trying to do is I have this super accurate back of a mold for a back that's really great, and a mold for a face that's really great, but the little crown portion of my helmets has never been awesome because the back of the head that I got, the front part where that crown meets, was never done correctly. It's a very accurate part, but they like pasted it in with fiberglass and just did a terrible job. So it's never quite worked right. And I've had to do a ton of body shop work. Anytime I make a C-3PO helmet, I have to go in there and really finesse that front edge. So what I'm trying to do right now is once I get that back piece correct, I'm going to print just the front edge and made it with one of my really accurate back pieces. It's a casting. It's got the real, everything's perfect, and just all the little asymmetries and weird stuff is all there, and I love that. I'm going to mate that 3D printed front of the front of the back, the crown, with the, the real screen accurate back piece, and that's the way I'm going to recreate that back, and then I'll probably make a new mold and I'll have like a nice back piece that fits properly with everything. So anyway, that's where I'm at now, but the benefit of getting that to fit the real parts, the casting, the accurate casting, is that I'll know that all of this stuff is very, very correct as far as scale. Everything lines up correctly and everything. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. Just figured I'd show you. Let's get back to the Jesse files that I'm wasting all my time on right now. I'm not really wasting my time. I don't mean it like that. I just should probably be putting this time into my own files instead. But figured everybody's got the Jesse files, so may as well help contribute a little bit. Make it a couple my little corrections here. I feel like the lip curvature is slightly weird. Let me look. Pretty good. It's a little tiny bit off. I'm not going to mess with it. It's definitely within reason for accuracy. I'm not going to mess with the lip at all. The top lip, something about the mouth looks strange to me. I think that the lips in general, the top and the bottom lip, might be just a hair thick. Let me see if I come in here and I mask. I go BMB for that is the rectangular mask. I'm going to go like this. Take a little itty bitty bit. And remember, I set this to the center of the non-masked area by holding Alt and clicking this. Like if I move this around and I go over here and I click this, it'll center it to the non-masked area. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to soften this and pull it up just a little bit. Little bit. helmet. Just a tad. Look at the helmet. Do the comparison. Look at the helmet. Do the comparison. And the lip on the bottom, the bottom little line here, this little line is slightly, like the lip in the lip underneath, the second lip, whatever you call it, are very close to the same size. So I'm just gonna move that just a smidge, just a freaking smidge. Now I'm gonna try very carefully smooth these out without hopefully messing up the edges here. Oh god damn it. I had the freaking thing turned off. Okay, symmetry back on. Bring that down and just touch that corner just a tad. Now, yeah, this should be definitely. Oh. I should definitely be working on my own stuff instead, but kind of wanted to do this for a long time, so here we are doing it. And when I'm done, I will post this thing on Thingiverse, and obviously make sure Jesse gets the proper credit for this, because he really did all the work. I'm just making these little adjustments. You can see I've softened the line for the lip a little bit. I think doing all those remeshing has kind of softened that. Excuse me. Damien standard brush. Go and just try to sharpen that just a tad. It's funny because the geometry is just like, no. If I go, boop, bump up the geometry. I can straighten that a little bit. But then it starts to become unnecessarily clunky. See what I'm doing here? I'm making it hard on myself. Before I upload this thing, I'll definitely run the decimation master on it, which will bring down the poly count a bit. Now, one thing that most of you guys didn't know is that on the real helmet, these parts, these little plates on the New Hope versions were metal. Metal lips. At least on the Master helmet, the Hero helmet. These were metal. And almost nobody knows that. And then all the other versions, they were cast in out of fiberglass. That's a neat little tidbit. Sharpen those up just a tad. Let's look here. How's the bottom looking? Itty bitty bit sharper, just a little bit. Now, once these things are printed and people are doing all their sanding and their cleanup, it's probably going to get lost, but not even a million polygons yet, so it's kind of light. Now, another thing I'm noticing is that the inset right here by the mouth, this line right here is quite a bit deeper on the real helmet, which I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice that before. Whoops. I'm starting to get into going overboard here. So go. Is it great? I don't know. Probably a little bit straighter. See, it's like a little. I'm also looking at this without perspective turned on, which can make things look a little weird. When we put perspective on, everything looks a little better. So anyway, that comes down, and this little line here from the side really comes like doop, bloop, and then clips in. Do I want to go this far? This is getting nuts. All right, I'm gonna do it because why? I'm gonna use the Move Infinite tool, and I'm gonna go. All right. Oh, all right. How bad am I doing this? Let's see. All right. All right. All right. Now you gotta remember, this thing is like a real one, hand sculpted. There's a lot of weirdness in it. Well, this line really comes out far. Like I said, I'm looking at my real helmet here, and looking at how this piece comes down, and it is from here. It literally comes down vertical and then like curves back like this. Let me see if I can put this in camera. I'm gonna switch views here real quick. So we can see, but in camera, will it focus? No. Get me out of the way, maybe. Come on, focus. You can see that. Get in there. See how much that comes down, like almost straight down, and then dips back like that, real deep. So that's what I'm going for. Again, I should just stop doing this right now and go from there, but I'm just gonna keep going because there's a problem in my brain that makes me want to do this kind of thing. So I'm gonna meet halfway. I'm not gonna do it fully, but I'm gonna make it a little better, a little bit better. And do it and smooth it, and then. So, and standard brush it right back. A little bit more here. A little bit in there. There we go. And if you guys are wondering, I am using a tablet. I'm using a Wacom. Not Wacom, it's Wacom, which I hate because it looks like Wacom. I called it Wacom for years and years until people from the company told me that was wrong. So yeah, it's a Wacom Intuos 3, which is an older tablet. And these used to be very expensive, but now you can get these things for really cheap off of like eBay, because there's much newer models which are better, but they're not that much better. So this tablet I'm using, I think, was over 400 bucks. I've got like 3 of these things. It looks like this. This is a 6x9. It's my favorite size. When I worked at the architecture job, I had one of these on each computer. So I had this crazy computer set up at one point, and I had 6 computers, and 4 of them had tablets just for each computer. So I could like just change, and I could do the work on whichever computer I was facing. Very convenient. Not necessary, but because of the workflow, and I was doing a lot of 3D work, sometimes I'd have to render a bunch of stuff, and then I would start rendering on one computer, and then I'd need to do Photoshop on another computer, and I would just, instead of having to unplug everything and switch it over and deal with all that, I could just turn my chair and start on the other computer. And the way I ended up with those is the place I used to work at had a lot more employees, and when it closed down, some employees left, I acquired their computers and their stuff. Like there's a bunch of tablets sitting around, so I was like, I'm going to take these and use them. So I did, and it was very, very, very handy for me. But now, this tablet is, like I said, slightly dated, but still works really, really good. Been using it for years. One of my favorite concept artists, his name is Feng Zhu. He's got a really great YouTube channel called Design Cinema. And he still uses this same tablet as well. We're friends on Facebook for many years now. Whoops. Damn. Okay, now I just messed this up. Now I gotta wait. But so when you're doing this, I should start at the bottom. The side with the shade is what's gonna get clipped away. Boop. Yeah, I gotta mask this stupid tab so I don't accidentally clip it. Side. Damn it. Side with the shade gets clipped away, but you can change the direction of the clipping by holding out Alt. So if I wanted to clip the front of it, I could do that. If I hold Alt, it'll clip the opposite direction. But this is what we want to do. I'm just going to even that out. Boop. So now our little crown shouldn't have any more dingleberries on it. It's got a little weirdness here. Again, this shouldn't really tuck in right here. This line should kind of continue smoothly. Let's see. I'm going to do the H polish. I'm just going to pull it up a little bit through here until it kind of like hits the level with this. Oops. Pretty close. So I got a little edge booger there from doing that clip tool. All right, that is closer to how the real helmet goes together. So I'm gonna do that. And got a lot of the boogers, a little bit of a sharp edge here still on the chin, which is not on the real one. We're gonna smooth that just a tad. Cool, cool. And something, see a little divot in the nose. Let me pop that up a little bit. Let's see if I get it. The real subtle thing going on there. What's funny is on my casting I have, which is what I have on my suit, it has a little divot right here on the real one, but it's only on one helmet. It's only one helmet in the movies, and you can see it. And it made it possible for me to screen match the helmet that I have. And then later, just a few years ago, I got to see the real one that mine was cast off of up close. And it's pretty amazing. And it was the helmet that was used in the Sandcrawler scene when they buy the droids. So the droid purchasing at Sandcrawler, that is the helmet that mine is related to. I'm going to save this. I haven't saved it in forever, and my odds are good that I'll end up crashing this thing. Oh, all right. There we go. So now, because I've done this, it means that it's going to interact weirdly with the back of the helmet. So, what am I going to do? So what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, there's two things I could do. So I showed you guys that when I do the, oops, did I mess it up already? I did, didn't I? Dynamic subdivision down here. Dynamic, and I add the thickness. I got a couple little boogers. Oh yeah, that's where the edge turns. I got to fix the edge now. So there's a hotkey for dynamic subdivision. It is not working for some reason right now, which is for sure a sign that ZBrush is getting ready to maybe crash. Whenever a hotkey stops working, it's usually not a great sign. Okay, so you can see that when I turn it on, I get this weird like edge here. So I can see the geometry is all piled up at the edge from when I did that clip. So right there, it's real hard to see. It's a pretty subtle thing, but if I get in close, how close can I get? See that little itty bitty edge that's going on? That's not good. That is what's causing the this boogery stuff by the side, which you don't want clearly. So I can turn that off. It's weird that the dynamic subdivision. Usually, if you hit the letter D, dynamic subdivision will come on, but the hotkey is not working right now. So again, if you ever have a hotkey not working, time to save your work because ZBrush might be getting ready to do something real weird. Let's see. I'm going to try to do another polygroups. Let's do that. Group by normals. Let's see what happens here. Might freak out. Sometimes if the polygon gets too high, it'll have a freak out. And see if hit it. So is there stuff hidden there? Oops. I messed it up. I might be about to lose ZBrush sometimes. Idea. There it is. Okay. Cool. Got this on. Okay, so go back to our select lasso and see. Stop it. Okay. Invert selection. And what is missing here? Looks like I've got everything I want. You can turn off the lines here. It makes it a little easier to see sometimes. So there's clearly some geometry that got selected. I don't even know where it's at. A little thing. So I'm going to try to delete the extra. See if this works. Modify topology. Delete hidden. Oh yeah. Oh, I see. That's probably why. I'm in a high subdivision. Let's delete lower. There we go. Now, there we go. That answers my question. Okay, so got that weird edge here. Let's see. All right, delete hidden. Okay. Still got a little booger on the edge right there. All right. How do I want to change this? So sometimes you can go to, if you change the smoothness on offset, sometimes it'll fix that. It's a little weird. There's definitely some like floating geometry kind of going on out here that I don't want. So anyway, you can see there's not really a trace of it on the inside, so that's kind of a pain in the butt. Another thing we can do, we can go to dots right here. All like this itty bitty little specks here that I can see through on the other side. That's geometry that's sort of flipped. So what I'm gonna do, I guess I'm gonna do a remesh. Hopefully that'll cure it. So these little things can be a pain. You'll work real hard, get everything real close, and then all of a sudden there's like this little hang up that is fighting. We'll just go Z-remesher. See what happens. It's gonna take a minute because polygons are a little bit higher now. I'm not editing this video, guys. I should have said this at the beginning, but let's see what happens. So that's completed. Now, if I go back to dynamic subdivision, it's got a little bit of boogers here, but not as bad. Not as bad. You can see it's kind of like pulled away at this one edge. And the edge is flipped outward. The rest of it looks good though, except the part that I want. Alrighty. I could do. I could literally just go like this. Oof, that was rough. Let me turn off perspective. That would help. Look at that, I did something real weird. Now, honestly, what I should have done is pull this whole thing out anyway. So let me do that. This really needs to go more straight back, because when you go to plug it in the helmet, if I don't do this right, it's going to be very weird. So I'm going to go right about here. Soften the mask a little bit. And I'm going to go right. Oh, I didn't soften. Soft. Too much soft. Down. Can just go straight back like that. Ooh. The dog just came scrambling out here to get a drink of water. There he goes. And then I'm going to just trim off this excess here. See what happens. Oh, jangy. What I'm doing is doing the soften. Kind of like redistributes that geometry a little bit along that edge that I just stretched out. Do it this way too. The whole goal in this is to get rid of that stupid like shapes that are going on the sides there. A lot of extra crap I'm putting in to get rid of them, but it will make it better. It'll make it better. Alright. So now, what is my best way to do this? There's a clip tool. Let's see which one do I want to use here. I can never remember what this one's called. I don't use this tool very often. I should use it more. What the hell is wrong with me? Mouse curve. Try it again. See. Ah, that's the one. All right. This is what we want to use. Why did I not do this before? All right. So I'm going to mask this so I don't accidentally trim it. Then make our little line nice and pretty like it was before. How close did I get? So when I'm checking here, I'm just using this line as a guide because I want to use the back of the tab on the ear kind of as my guide of where I want that cut. I want the top to be just about lined up with that. There we go. That's way better. Why did I not do that before? Okay, so now, oops, DSL switch. All right, now, jeez, man. Delete hidden. Got everything. Modify topology. Delete hidden. Turn this thing off. There we go. Clean line. Oh my god, that was clunky. Boy, I'm embarrassed. There we go. So this is a little bit deep. It's fine though, because I'd rather have a little extra than not enough. We are going to... What the hell are these menus up here? Transform, get that gone. I'm going to save this before I forget. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to keep this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double this up. Subtool. It'll make sense in a minute. Duplicate. I'm going to put that as a duplicate at the top of the stack. I'm going to go into geometry. I'm going to go dynamic subdivision, and I'm going to hit apply. And that means that this is now one piece, as I can't edit that thickness or anything anymore, but only on the doubled version. So I've got the double, I've got the back, turn the back down here. So you can see the cutout for the back is here. I want it to fit the face, so I'm going to put on live boolean. Turn off this, turn off this, turn this on. Did I do this right? Yeah, I did it right. Let's see. There we go. So you can see where the helmet goes, where it touches the back, it is cutting in right here. See if I can turn that off. So when I turn it on, this is where it is touching. So it's going to trim the helmet to match. But when I get down here, I'm going to have a little bit of issue. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to handle this. Now I've got to deal with the back. I'm not going to make any changes really to the back, minus this little bottom here. I'll probably clean up this little adjustment that I made so this isn't so weird. But not really doing other changes to the back. So I would like it to be thinner. I feel like it's a little bit thick. And I goofed it up on the back right there a little bit. Ooh. So how am I going to do this? Do I want to completely ditch all this stuff, reprint it? Nah, I'll deal with the back later. I think I just wanted to change the face the most. Honestly, you could probably cut this hole out. Now, if you've never worn a C-3PO helmet, this little back piece, man, they're very fitted. In my first helmet, I could not fit it on until I trimmed out this back piece. I had to make this like super, super thin, and it just fit my head inside. And my newer helmet is a little bigger, but that was a thing I had to deal with. So there's that. So the way we're gonna do this to cut out these pieces is we are going to, and I think I'm going to do this both ways. I'm going to cut this out and trim it up so it fits, and then I'm going to double this as well. Shit, how am I going to do this? No, this is fine. This will work. This will work just fine. So what you do is you take this and you go to Subtools, Boolean, Make Boolean Mesh, and it says see little things go in progress, and then when you go to Insert, there's the U mesh. That is the helmet. I'll turn off Boolean so you can see it's solo. So there is the part with the elements trimmed to match that face. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of thick. That's pretty thick. Now, there's not a lot of room inside, so yeah, when you get into this area, that's kind of where your ears go. and the thinner the better. So I prefer this stuff be super thin. I guess it's okay. I will leave it for now. So what I want to do is make sure my symmetry is on. And I'm going to delete this little dangly piece here. See what angle works best to do this. Go like this. Go like this. Oh man, SARS. Booger, tiny booger. Tiny extra booger. Alright, let's see. And I will go to geometry. Delete hidden. Cool, cool. Now there's a little hole right there at the edge. And there's this little boogery thing here, which I also want to delete. But let's look at this. So, let's see that. Basically, I delete all around this thing. Hide it, I should say. Alright, so this. Let me get rid of that little piece, I think. Let's flip it and see. Yeah. And get rid of that thing. Delete hidden. There's a little edge right there that I'm going to get rid of as well because I should. Ooh. Real little edge. Okay. Now, are there easier ways to do this? Probably. So look what I did here. Did I cut all the way through the outside? No. Okay. Delete hidden. Boink. Now we're going to close holes, which is right in front of me somewhere. Close holes. And I got a little bit of an edge still there that I didn't take care of enough. Must have had a little extra geometry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to P, planer tool, and I'm going to go trim these suckers down a little bit. All right. So they're not in the way. I should have remeshed this a little bit. See the geometry is a little funky. This is probably all full of triangles again. Yeah, a bunch of triangles. Should have remeshed. It's okay. I can remesh now. So I'll go into the zero mesher. And I'll go to double. Keep target poly count. I'll go to double. And it'll zero mesh. You gotta watch because sometimes it softens the details a little bit. But overall, yeah, looks good. Looks good. Now we got the regular polygons to work with. That means I can come in here and just touch up this little edge here a little bit. Oop. Soften it a little tiny bit right there. Not the prettiest, but it will work. It will do the job. back up, soften, dip it, zip it, and lip it. And I could turn up the geometry and like make this a little better, but it's not gonna matter too much. The outside looks good. I'd like to not have this here. What is the best way to handle this? I don't know. Just polish it back into place, I guess. Gross. Okay. BMB. Totally goofing this up. Let me go back. I did it too much. I went too hard. Let me see. I didn't go back too far, did I? That's good enough. Alright. Just gonna do it. Uh-oh. Okay. Do a little subtle tweak here, and then I'm not gonna mess with the back anymore. Back doesn't need too much. I feel like this is kind of getting into a little bit unnecessary territory here. Now, these holes are probably not going to line up the same as they used to. So we have the U-mesh bottom and the base. If I did it right, it should all fit together. I'm going to take the face again and just test with the boolean tool to make sure I'm not trimming anything. There's a little bit of interference right on this edge. You see that? Real subtle. I don't think it's good enough to like screw anything up, honestly. I think it's probably, when it's printed, everything's going to fit just fine. It's really subtle. Yeah, it should be fine. I'm not going to change it. I'm not changing it. I'm not going to do it. Now these bolt holes, switch it back over to this. They are pretty big. So this is kind of like the real size. I got a big chip there. It's gross. Bunch of epoxy putty in the top. This both sides of this are beat to hell. This face has been kicking around in my shop for a long time. But yeah, the actual holes are pretty big, and I don't know. I feel like it needs to be adjusted to reflect that, but I don't know. I think people want to just like put screws in there and attach the front to back or something. So I'm gonna go with that. And then as far as the top, on the real helmet, there's like this little wire pin or wire loop that goes up here, and then that antenna has a screw on the back, and that screw plugs in and holds the wire loop in place. However, I think that the little tab that Jesse put on there, which is similar to the Zorg tab, and it's kind of a better design for the most part as far as holding the face on. You don't, it's one less point of one less screw that you need to hold the head together. But you know what, I'm gonna still leave it off, and I'm gonna do it just like this, and then maybe I'll add it back on later. I don't know, but anyway, I feel like it's a little funky right there. See that? A little bit funky right here. I messed with it too hard. Oh, the other thing too is when you turn the geometry up, you can't get those real broad, nice adjustments. Yeah, it like pulls out a sharp thing. I don't want that. I want it to be gentle You know, and it gets hard to do because when it's too much geometry, it fights a little bit. But anyway, that's pretty freaking good. That's good enough. And all of these are still way more perfect than the real helmets. The real helmets are super asymmetrical. Real helmets are super asymmetrical, and there's all kinds of little weird things going on everywhere. So anyway, I think this is an improvement. So I'll post this sucker on Thingiverse. Probably post a video tonight, and then put this on Thingiverse in the next, like, tomorrow or something, whenever I can log in and do that. Maybe tonight. We'll see here. Now, I have not checked the scale of this thing yet. It should export just fine. It should be able to export and import no problem. But yeah, this is me just making a couple mods. The overall helmet is still just the Jesse helmet with some Gordon Tarpley mods. So it's pretty. I think it's looking pretty good. He did a really, really good job modeling these things. So me going in here and bothering with it is definitely not a critique of his work by any means. He did a really, really good job. Let's see here. We have some colors. Reflect orange. That's kind of a cool look, right? Maybe we should do 3PO in orange. That looks awesome. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna export these things, and then we'll go. Maybe I should add a little hole for the screws. Yeah, fuck it. You guys can do it. However, I should have said that. Cool. All right, exporting the parts now, and then we'll upload. But that was enough. Thanks for hanging out with me for a while I did that. Geez, I was in here goofing around for a long time. It's gonna be a long, boring video. So it goes. All right, kids, have a good night. I will see you soon with something that's not this. I spent way too long on this. I got other stuff to do. What am I doing? Bye.